Thank you all for being here. If you don't know me, I'm Rob Hardy. And this is kind of my last thing as poet laureate, so but you shouldn't feel too sad because Adriana's sitting right next to the new poets laureate. But so Becky Bowling and Dee Doug Green are going to take the position. At least on an interim basis, right? Because I'm and they also helped me read through all of the submissions. So I'm sorry we can't be starting out at Wade Park right now, but you know the weather is uncertain, and I appreciate your flexibility in coming here. So this is my poem for about Wade Park. I wrote it in 2017 when Judy Swanson won the Living Treasure Award. So it's kind of dedicated to Judy. It's called Invisible. When you've lived in a place long enough, its subdivisions begin to extend into the invisible. Memory takes up more and more real estate. Absences add to the invisible architecture of the town. In Way Park, where the old hospital used to be, I can look up and imagine my first child being born, floating like a tiny blue helium balloon high above the ground. The symbol of everything that has grown beyond my grasp, everything that tethers me to this place. It has become easier to feel the invisible threads connecting me to the others who have made this place. I imagine the Way sisters looking out at the unspoiled future of their gift, a gift so many others have held in trust. To them I would say, you do not know me, but you have given me this. In this place of so many births, there is earth underfoot and a larger space for the sky, and I can hear children making music. Okay, Charlotte. Charlotte Aline.
Is this good for the microphone?
It's closer.
Even better? Okay. I'm holding out my papers. About Way Park. From the west, the hill drops 100 feet to a place halfway down the long slope, the gully to the river. Water made its way there through forgotten ravines, carried glacial till, spread erosion over sandstone. It takes a careful eye to read this reshaped terrain as once glaciated or wild. Even the tall trees are too young to remember how the big woods sustained the Wakabrute, to see where sediment and calcareous soil formed a long draw stretching east toward unglaciated prairie beyond the canyon. Slow settlement kept the dam pasture open, a buffer between college and town, patchworked between plats with muddled ownership records, deeded over to the city and named by sisters. So much has obscured the original topography. Street building pushed earth over swales, hospital construction brought fill, later demolition. Layers of clay and black dirt hauled in for successive projects remapped the contours. Only the limestone wall remains from the WPA era design. The sunken garden is gone. A line of trees marks the street that no longer runs through. The hawthorn, once opposite the ER entrance, now faces tables, basketball games, and playground. North, the maples flare in the fall near musical instruments. The baseball diamond ice rink hugs the warming house. South, new oaks ring a kid-planted pollinator plot. The walk circles past the gentle sledding hill with risers for summer yoga, marriages, and memorials, then returns back to the rain garden, its sedge, blue stem, and aster capturing water by a sidewalk edged with dogwoods the birds have spread. Soon the declining ash will vanish like elms did, and the landscaping will change yet again. The old climbing trees are gone. Still, in spring, eagles will cross over from the river, returning vultures soar to the heights, and perhaps bluebirds reappear. A park is more than a park, especially here. A collage of sundry gifts and promises of labors, fests, memories, and aspirations, and most of all, essential space to try to find common ground, often by happenstance, in leisure and conversations.
Can y'all hear me if I do this without the microphone?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so I'd like to dedicate this one to Will Shore back there. What? Yep, because he sent me an email and kind of dared me to do this. A little bit, he did, forward to this email. And so, unrelated entirely to Will, I decided to kind of envision Wade Park maybe having a midlife crisis, and like, what would I say to the park to encourage it? So, this is called Oh Wade Park. There comes a time in every park's life when they feel less than, churlish, past curling light and new accoutrement, where doldrums beat their dull repeat. Do not despair. Let me, sweet friend, remind you of your glory. Your play structure, for instance, where parents hover hands below toddlers trying the next impossible trick, where children in fluorescent shorts loose pebbles from the tops of slides, and others whack mallets against chimes for marshmallow sounds, and teens pump the breeze on your swings, searching for new selves in the errant blue. Think of your amphitheater, where sweaty women in child's pose inhale their deepest breath of the day, where simple weddings commence and paper programs slither away on the wind. Think of your warming hut, where fingers unthaw and your wooden boards catch the blades of skates. Think of your paths on which children parade as ninjas and Elsas and Batmen, how you tenderly hold the glowing heads of pumpkins on your low stone walls. Think of your picnic tables, arraying hot dogs and tofu dogs and brie and bruschetta and quiche and pesto and hummus, unveiling pale ale and Pinot Grigio, but only in plastic containers. On your wide green belly, children covered in Cheeto dust dance to mariachi tunes, and larpers enact the daily lives of dragon lords. Your inflamed maples seduce photo buffs all the way from Dundas, and your grainy infield sports the perfect divots of almost caught balls. Below your basketball hoop, the Tai Chi group catches clouds, and in your rain gardens, second graders release monarch butterflies. Think of your storied history, how you used to have a hospital inside you, how ambulances careened down your flanks. But I will not pretend everything has come up roses. Roses do not grow in you. And yes, sometimes in January you are desolate with carbuncles of ice. And yes, there was once excrement in the urinal of your porta potty. Sure, your notice boards have been singed with graffiti, and sometimes you team with all the children from St. Dominic's or Greenvale at once, and even I can see you are exhausted. I admit, we have carried the hurt of the world into you. Our split lips and maimed marriages, our diagnoses and depression, our loneliness and laziness and rage. We screamed our children home when they did not behave. We avoided COVID inside you, sitting in camping chairs 6 feet apart, or kicking a soccer ball across brown matted grass and calling it gym class. We have not taught ourselves the names of all that thrives inside you, dogwood and coneflower and milkweed and bluestem. We have taken you for granted. But not always. You have your own board of volunteers. They water you and weed you and plan for further You have not yet caught on fire or become a monster truck arena. You are not Central Park, but you are also not a patch of AstroTurf in Florida. Wade Park, it was you I walked through, your spider-webbed dawn, just hours before my second babe was born. I contracted and contracted and contracted. You called down pigeons and dew. You set me in a circle so I could return home to where I belong. You return us to belonging, sweet park. Our footsteps disappear inside of you.
My 51-year-old son remembered not Way Park, we lived there, so that didn't count. But thought about Cherry Park, the park that nobody knows. A long time since memory of Cherry Park, up through the alleyway, not long before dark. Hidden away behind houses and giant old trees, lightning bugs lilac their way through the breeze. No teeter-totters here or fancy big slides. Only an old tire, but it'll take you for a ride. Tied to 40 feet of rope and turned inside out, it will fling, zing, sling, heave and hurl you, spin you about. Sailing through the air like a yo-yo on a string, walk the dog pinwheel around the world. Hey, that's the thing. And finally, when you're dwindled, wound all the way down, your head still spinning, laughing and grinning, you fall to the ground.
1651 Jefferson Parkway. The senior center at the south end is now 50 North, but seldom called that. People gather for classes, swims, coffee, exercise, popcorn, or hang out to chat. In the north end of the building, at the Community Action Center, English meets Spanish, other languages too. Folks gather both places, same folks sometimes. A lot happens in a long life, sometimes in a short one. Something like call and response happens often at 1651 Jefferson Parkway. Haven't seen you in a long time, how are you? Same here, how are you? Did you hear about those folks getting COVID? I did. Isn't that awful? And them so fragile. Last week I didn't pick up any bread. This week there's none. Lots more folks here this week, sorry. Over coffee, the north folks on the south end solve the world's problems or their own, share the news of the day or their own, or TV gossip, chat, laugh, sigh. No longer candidates for Vogue or GQ. Folks share wisdom, laughter, surgery, exercise classes for aches and pains. Together, 1651 is about gathering. Up north at the CAC, folks find help in more ways than most of us know. Sources for housing, medical aid, jobs, and food at the food shelf once a week. Cards at the food shelf fill for or more, sometimes for only one. Folks have their own reasons. Folks have their own reasons, carry on with life and love. Kind of food changes a bit, even the gold rings. A dozen eggs isn't on the shelves all the time. This would be so much easier if I didn't have a microphone. Once a man asked if I spoke Spanish. My answer? Muy poco y muy loco. Mi inglés? Muy loco también. We both laughed, tried Spanglish. New friends, each day or week. Longtime friends stay as long as they can before that next. maybe the last move. Degrees don't matter much, except on the outside thermometer. Around 0, degrees matter a lot, especially below 0 with ice. Farmer, professor, person, salesperson, lawyer, kindergarten teacher, nana, or puppy, everybody's important. Nobody wants that bad ice fall. Looking at the clock, time to go. Put on the coat, start the car, head for 1651 Jefferson Parkway, meet friends or friends-to-be. Each day is a new beginning. With E.E. Cummings, we all share most this amazing day, the leaping greenly spirits of the trees, the true blue dream of a sky, and everything which is yes. Thank you.
I try to do an adaptation of what I feel because I'm from Mexico and I find myself many times remember my school, my friends, my mom, the streets of my town, and every time I did, it's like I travel. There is no way to remember those places without go in my mind to that place. So that's something what I try to do on these 2 little pieces. And like I say, I do a little adaptation because obviously I don't went to school here, but this is how it was. Los recuerdos no se mueven, la mente viaja hasta los lugares donde se crearon. Los recuerdos de mi infancia siguen aquí y aún viven en las paredes de este lugar que fue mi middle school. Memories don't move. The mind travels to places where they were created. Memories of my childhood are still here and live on the walls of this place that was my middle school. The next one is for the Archer House. I worked there for many years, like 8 or 9 maybe. And I remember almost every weekend I find somebody on the hallway asking, where are the restrooms? Or how can I get to the tavern? Or where is the elevator? How can I get the lobby? And I worked there many years, so I know that place very well after. I mean, it took me a while, but after 4 or 3 years, I know almost every place. So when the fire happened, and then the building was, no sé cómo decir, que lo demolieron. When they demolished, I take some pictures and I see the place empty, and then I think it's really hard to see that space empty when it was a really beautiful building there. But then I think maybe if I close my eyes, I can walk inside the building again, because I know the place really well. So that's what I do, and that's something what I try to write down here. Ladrillos rojos, ventanas blancas, abro la puerta de madera, veo una gran escalera y el lobby, recorro los pasillos y subo por el ascensor hasta el 3er piso. Hay una gran ventana, veo el río y un hermoso atardecer desde la parte más alta de Archer House. Red bricks, white windows. I open the wooden door. I see a grand staircase and the lobby. I walk the corridors and go up in the elevator to the 3rd floor. There is a window. I see the river and a beautiful sunset from the highest point of the Archer House.
you all hear me?
Yeah.
The drive into Northfield on Highway 19 fills me with anticipation, excitement. This town, my second home, where my grandchildren and their parents reside. When I turn on 3 and turn again, an old greenish building comes into view. How can an old, decaying, bleak metal Quonset hut provide so much enjoyment for a grandmother? An ancient structure, dangerous, full of asbestos, reeks of sweat, unwashed bodies, uniforms, sometimes cold with uncomfortable seats, crowded parking, but still my favorite place in Northfield. My 2 boys in their maroon and gold glide on the ice, shoot, like the lamb, slam against the boards, get back up, continue, the action fast and furious. I concentrate to make my body relax, calm my racing heart, practice deep yoga breathing as I remind myself it is just a game. The anxiety of close games, the wins, the losses, the 10,000 Buddhist joys and sorrows, bad calls by the referees, the cheers, the boos, but always a pleasure to watch no matter the score. You might have guessed this historical place, known as the Northfield Hockey Arena, where my grandsons play hockey, sweat, strive, learn and grow, bond with their teammates, and in the long winter, provide pleasure to their grandmother in the most beautiful place in Northfield.
No, I don't need a mic. This is going to be the shortest poem of the day. And it's an ode to Highway 3. Highway 3, I sing to thee, that a highway can be so divisive. At each crossing, heads must be decisive. Yeah, I should get across, but will I suffer limb loss? All my words for this road are derisive.
I was super excited about this event, to be walking through town, place to place. And it's really nice, we have a beautiful place to do it in anyhow. But that was really a dream. We have to do it one year, Doug and Becky. Mine is called The View from the Depot. And it starts with an epigraph by Wallace Stevens. I placed a jar in Tennessee, and round it was upon a hill. It made the slovenly wilderness surround that hill. So I claim that's true of the depot. Down the hillside from the west, littered by our recent past, I pick my careful, muddy way toward the tracks and farther east. Walking, I break each steep step down into the open space between St. Olaf aloof on its decorous height and Carlton sprawling down its own. Near the foot of this western hill, a real live depot, bright as new, waits in a manicured railside park as if a train were just in view. Once castaway, now history redeemed by hope and elbow grease, the rescued depot changes us by changing how we see this place. Now the depot claims a perch that's picturesque and orderly, yet proves neglect can be a part of what we let ourselves see. These random rusty railroad parks, the caged substation, and dumpsters full of trash, the muddy parking lots, no longer are invisible. First, the river brought us here. Then the railroad linked the nation. The road was built to serve the town, but grew to symbolize division. Sarah.
The river, the tracks, the highway all split the halves of us. Split town from gown, split Carl from Ole, us from them, split red from blue and white from brown. If a deft line on a page can make the page outside the line white space, then let the depot show there's room between these hills for what's to come. A woman and man walk toward, a woman and mud walk toward a man whose 2 hounds leap for happiness. There in the field, the 5 find room for privacy in public space. The river has to journey on. The railroad rumbles and clatters and howls. The highway needs us to forgive. Let bygones be bygones. Let live, let live.
So I have different locations, so one of them, of course, the Northfield Depot had to be. Imagine if we could change the space around us, the land, carve different morsels, chisel each avenue and street, and move them around like blocks in a child's game of building a city. Change the space, the colors, as we change the lines in a drawing, and create instead the sketch we wanted. No highways, no asphalt to cover the landscape, the dirt, the plants, so eager to grow, break through rock and cement as if they were room temperature butter. We could eliminate the scars that separate our city, the east and the west. Highway 3 divided in 2 hills. This is like a theme today. River flowing through its lanes, beautiful, overflowing in the spring, mighty water, north and south. People in the north of town speak Spanish and languages from Vietnam and Kenya. New Americans in the region of European settlers, displaced in Dakota and Ojibwe nations. People suspicious of each other. When will we work on the we? And yet, bridges make the connect the sections of our city. The streets connect the divided land, and the Northfield Depot stands vigilant of the highway rushing below, the cars speeding through the lanes, human scale replaced by the gas scale. Once there was a train, and the depot is again waiting for it.
The title of my poem is Morning Ode to Goodbye Blue Monday, circa 2002. Sweet brew fills the air. Macadamia, the flavor of the day, hovering over the common space, dimly lit by a cacophony of antique lamps shaded in variegated hues. And all of it covered yet by a curiously mellifluous Johnny Cash, pressing on, droning on in his typically effervescent country locomotive way. The counter served this morning, as always, by the young affable regulars, tall, sticked, baseball-capped guy, quiet, gentle, reflective guy, focused gal, bent, intent on serious giving, spirited owner-manager gal, lit up, shining, glasses on in the background, baking furious, almond scones, crusty, crenellated, other pastry delights, as she reaches with full life for the high-pitched amiability that lifts the workers and clientele. Kind conversation of the patron regulars, circled in light but lyric engagement. Stocks crashed, regained, recumbent bikes repaired, rider now staying in the big cog after a long convalescence. John's finally at work again, but he has to start early, so he can't be here today. Grandchildren around for a few days, just left this morning. They're awfully nice if they don't stay too long. side, small-town lawyers steal glances over headlines of Gaza atrocities, while others, Lewis and Clark-like, map the Gulf-linked Minnesota terrain, courses to be blazed on the great weekend of escape. Pretty single mom with toddler child, mushing coffee sweets on the emerald green couch that struggles to survive. As Cash modulates to Joe Beam's songbird, beating bossa nova beats and warbling Corcovado, em inglés com sotaque português, sadly pitched but softly definitive, a sultry era a bygone brought forth. Olaf Guy, or Carlton Guy, scruffy, soporific, reclined on a sick yellow-green plastic chair, nodding in and out of volumes philosophic, sense, reference, opacity, deontic modal context, the full array of analytic concerns, Russell, Quine, Wittgenstein, Rorty heralding philosophy's death, may it rest in peace. All the while, undulating raindrops fall lazy outside the wide storefront window of the Goodbye Blue Monday, on a dreary but hopeful morning Wednesday that looks to Friday. This gift to the world goes unnoted. Here and now experience bought and sold with the currency of dialectic and human exuberance. Separated lives brought briefly in concert before they leave this place to work the day. May they work it well. May they rest in peace. Thank you.
So a bit of context. I wrote this right when the pandemic was starting, and I was absolutely terrified. Everything was going to change. So it's coincidence that I wrote it outside the post office. Then when you sent out the email, it fit your guidelines perfectly, of course. But now maybe it takes on something different. It's called virtual. I watched the river equals solid ribbon of smoked glass up to the dam where an uprooted ash tree equals smooth-skinned ogre body-like of what would seem impossible height has wedged lengthwise between water/concrete. The dam equals early 20th century infrastructure, WPA, still holding up pretty damn well, is several hundred meters across, equals I tell myself we should finally start measuring with metrics, so much will change now anyway, not like it's up to me. And beneath an old mill equals late 19th century historical landmark. I picture it equals dam, not the mill, but then I guess the mill as well, clogged with uprooted ash trees, equals smooth-skinned, ash-painted, ogre-hued ogres that spontaneously retake life as unheralded colossi begin striding about the market circle, crushing, fleeing, squealing market goers. Equals me included, no reason I should be exempt. I have visited the post office to retrieve the card. I have read the card. Relieved am I at sender's words, yet sad there should now exist necessity for them, let alone the card at all. I would almost, equals almost, have more disturbing news, but in a previously disturbed equals familiar world. An ambulance with 2 paramedics waits across the market circle on my left. The driver sports a longish, sharply trimmed goatee, equals very Luciferian. But how exactly would the casual observer know anything like that for sure? How it could grasp a pat to me and kneel before a black altar thrice daily for all I'm privileged to know. So note it be. And I am thinking, is it clean shaven, the new order, let alone necessity of the day, especially for the first responder? But perhaps I'm misinformed. Of course, he may not care. Unlikely, seems to me. Quite far back in time, the words ogre and ochre equals alt spelling ochre, O-C-H-E-R, began as one, linked. Earth paints in gold equals creatures of clay. The market circle equals I wonder about renaming it. Ogre square circle says so much will change now anyway, not like it's up to me. Equals I guess I could run for city council, so much will change now anyway, not like it's up to me. equals never mind, it would sound silly and have what important point exactly? Is hardly deserted, nor could it be described as crowded. Still, all foot and motor traffic seems already too much for safety. All the people ash trees walking, all the ash trees ogres. All the ogres skinned smooth, blocking the dam, jamming the insides of that towering old mill. Equals dark satanic. Equals anti-Luciferian. Trees create oxygen.
I thought this would be a fun exercise in history, as you know, on this history Northfield. I decided to choose 5 scenes from the history of Bridge Square over 100+ years. So each stanza is a scene from the history. My poem is called Bridge Square Remembers. Crimson orange, licking yellows leaped high. A crackling bonfire roared to the town's delight. Flash and report of firearms, sparkling firefly, celebrating the dreaded bandits' timely capture. The James Younger gang rode no more. Clad in splendid duck-white band uniforms, trimmed with black braid and brass buttons, 17 red-cheeked oldies marched from Manitou. War had been declared against Spain. Patriotic strains played in the square. Golden Slope, a 15-year-old trotter on display. The well-made, glistening brown stallion, son of the great electioner and Dam Addie. None better bred. A sire of fast ones. Will sell for any purpose, road, track, or fancy. A young couple on their first date stood under a street lamp without an umbrella while a spring rain fell in the deserted square. They shared a warm kiss. Gray shadows could not hide their impending, lasting love. A dark-haired girl with scuffed knees sat on the Civil War monument bench, savoring the pie in the square event. Her raspberry smile too wide for seconds, too young to look back and wonder.
I'm hoping to do this without a mic. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The Ghosts of Division Street, Northfield, Minnesota. I have an epigraph. In January 1855, John Wesley North set out from St. Anthony Falls, Minnesota, to settle land recently ceded by the Dakota tribe. North chose the Cannon River Valley because of the great potential for hydrologic power and abundant natural resources, from the About Northfield webpage. 4 solid blocks of Division Street parallel the Cannon River, also known as Inyan Standing Rock River. I found out that rock is a good 2 miles away, and I can't see its hulking tower from Northfield, even though historians report that once upon a time it was visible from 20 miles away. At 4th Street, the division peels away from the cannon and barrels straight south, not beholden to waterways or boulders or hills. Stubbornly man-made, it anchors this Minnesota town, even as its name claims to bisect it. It cleaves, tracing the river, echoing the train tracks, dividing and uniting the town, a construction anointed by land speculators and broken treaties. Can we agree that the name Inyan haunts us? That what is here always carries within it what once was? That even though I moved here in 2003, that I kept on hearing tales of a Division Street long ago? Jacobson's closed before I arrived, yet I could see the clothes, sewing supplies, the Easter coloring contest. Northfield V&S Variety Ghost is older, and its sign was large. Speaking of signs, so many of them remain unstenciled. So many of them remain stenciled on the brick long after the business shutters. We used to eat at Las Delicias under the auspices of the Ideal Cafe, and Tiny's hot dog mascot fades slowly, reminding me of summer visits when we would sit on stools, and eat veggie dogs. When he was 5, my son and I would walk down divisions to the library every Saturday. The original 1910 Carnegie bones undergird the 1984 extension and the 2016 glass entry and commons. This place that is and isn't the one where my son and I would gather. There really is no going home again, is there? Or else there is, and it is this. These constant traces of what and who was there. Present perfect, the Rubinstein, the cocoa bean. I swear I'm not just what I consume. If you follow me, you'll understand how walking this street, this cleaving line, is a constant becoming. My body learning these doors and their welcomes. Time making this town mine. I too feel the hum of the defeat of Jesse James days in September. I too can forget that the histories we preserve sit on top of histories being actively erased. Before the fire that doomed it, the Archer House looked like it had anchored Division Street forever. It once was the Stewart Hotel. Before that, the anchor was in Bostata. I assure you the histories of this place matter. This 1923 sepia photo of Division has signs declaring rooms, tires, bakery, and wallpaper furnishings. This postcard, printed between 1908 and 1920, features an awning that declares Drew and Elton Dry Goods. The Northfield Wiki's timeline starts in 1851 with the removal of the Dakota, and I can find no photos or postcards from before 1851. But the rock was here before the cannon, and this river, this street, this town, teem with ghosts. Thank you.
When I moved to this town, I'm a river fisherman. I grew up in Winona, and I was really struck by seeing fishermen on the bridge at Bridge Square, and I had never seen that before, fishing on the bridge. This poem is entitled "The Bridge at Bridge Square." Green, red, and gold lines of various strengths arc over my railings into the Cannon River. Dark, murky, yet flowing. Casting everything aside, traveling far, they fish on me. A Mexican couple, a Vietnamese family, another from India, a Somalian. Slowly reeling, 2 men sit on folding chairs at ease. A mother and daughter, rods in hand, cast on the edge. Feet dangling. Some anglers cross from side to side, cross again and again. Or poles extended, lean, reach out. I uphold all. Strong parts beneath, arches, girders, trusses. I was built this way.
Agora, which is a Greek word that means assembly. We cross the square in the nexus of our streets. That river flow through our river town. The square is also a bridge, as its name asserts, that presages the arrival at the literal bridge over the literal Cannon River, the one that floods after record snows and winter melts. Nothing so strange. These crosswalks and tangle of traffic on foot, by car, perhaps even by kayak. This is the agora, where debates resound, where popcorn, fair food, and morning produce are hawked and enjoyed, where dogs follow, nose on the ground, for scraps dropped by passers-by. This is the agora, where people gather with posters and rainbow chalk to write the names, to speak them, despite trucks and vans that circle and honk in caustic reply. This is the space, the public, the commons. Here, controversy comes to flourish. But here too, holiday lights are placed and crowds swat mosquitoes at music festivals in the short summers. This is the square that bridges divides, a heartbeat away from libraries and shops and art galleries and banks and offices and apartments and restaurants and cafes, antique shops, novelty stores, and post office. The square where we look west over the river and east towards sunrise and north or south. From here, we cannot see the limits of our communities. From here, across our divisions, we build bridges.
Pedestrian bridge over the Cannon River. This bridge is a place between, a centering between downtown and Highway 3, east and west sides, between sky and water, clouds and waves. Cars pass on bridges to the north and south, but here between, only foot traffic. 100 steps east to west, west to east. How many times have I paused halfway across to orient myself? On the river walk below, someone casts a fishing line into the river. A couple leans into conversation across a picnic table. A world away from streets moves beneath this bridge. In summer, pink petunias spill from planters along the handrails. In winter, lights wrapping black steel cushion the dark sky. Always, the river stains and reflects, its water our measure of time. Once, our 6 a.m. yoga group left the studio to practice on this bridge. Our sun salutations pulled light toward our hearts as stars faded into day. We grounded ourselves on this bridge, on concrete and steel above the river, a grounding possible only in a town with water moving always through its center.
I'm reading this on behalf of my 10-year-old who had a dance rehearsal. She actually got in here a moment ago, but I don't think she wants to read right now, so. This is called Bridge Square Seasons. Chatter ringing out from the tall canopies, folds of white fabric rustling in the breeze, soaps and stickers, cookies and pastries, necklaces and beads, all sheltered under the shade of the tents. Rushing water cascades down the concrete. Thin lines like strands of hair are cast down into the rippling water. Tall slabs of rock jut out of a concrete basin. Little bumps sparkle at the bottom. Pennies, dimes, nickels, quarters, all thrown down with a wish. Snow drifts down, light as a feather, sprinkling the tops of heads like powdered sugar on a Christmas cookie. Young and small children wait in line to meet the man of the season. Stars twinkle in the vast, dark sky. The air is full of joy.
I'm here because I can't be here this afternoon, so thank you for letting me read out of order, bringing a little more somber tone to things. Upon reflection, I believe I've been drawn to cemeteries my whole life, and thinking about it, it could be, I realized that my maternal grandparents died when I was just turning 3 years old, and so I spent my life visiting them at cemeteries and never in person. So I think that might have something to do with my fascination with cemeteries. That and enjoying literature like Neil Gaiman's and others. And I simply call this Oak Lawn Cemetery. Down the curving lane, up the deceptively steep slope, across from a stand of pin oaks, pines, and prairie grass. There, rising from a spotty lawn dotted with towering oaks, are the stones memorializing our deceased predecessors. Bruno, Griffith, Shaw, Haugen, Haas, Pence, Faust, Nasby, and more modestly, De Boer. Beneath a wispy evergreen they rest, lulled in peaceful eternal sleep by both gentle spring breezes and harsh winter gales. 2-foot-high American flags flapping fond salutes. Their visitors are few and far between, yet patiently they await company, calm and quiet, never bending or breaking, their westward gaze unchanging with each shuffle of the seasons. Gone from us here, though mystically ever present and never forgotten.
Hi. I'm one of those, you may have to tell me to be louder. And I have 3 poems. The first poem is the longest one, and it's just called Way Park. I see the blue house across St. Olaf Avenue, ornate yet friendly, where once Laura and Lucille, the Way sisters, lived. They kept a close eye on the land they gave to us in the Great Depression. A swale became a font of civic and personal history. Today, the old Way house is engulfed by garden beds, ablaze in spring with tulips, daffodils, bright lilies in tumbling abundance, while near the sidewalk perches a tiny replica of the house, a magic mirror filled with the gift of 3 books. Across is their park, free and open space, welcoming everyone, ringing with summer concerts, glittering with winter's ice skates, and across the green swells, nearly to 2nd Street, I can just make out the old city hospital, long torn down, there where a friend's baby was being born, while I, newly fledged yoga teacher, welcomed students into the meeting room. Each week, we all helped push back chairs to make a circle, to make room for something unifying and healing. One morning, a friend to us all was laboring on another floor, somewhere over our heads, straddling the mysteries of entry and exit. We sat, chanted Om, sent our energy, golden as we could make it, upwards. Goodwill, a gift, fragile and perennial as sunlight, as human breath. So echoing some thoughts of the morning's poems about Way Park. The second poem is very short, and it's really an ekphrastic poem based on a photograph I took at Bridge Square. It's called Sometimes at Bridge Square. Blue sky to the east, white sphere, incised with swirls, crowning the tower, balancing that spire. Flat Zen entablature, encircled with black and, oh, full moon rising. I'm so unused to applause and help. This is the last one, and again echoing some of the poems from earlier this morning. It's called the Archer House 2020. Our flame red river inn, near where the river spills, caught fire, blazed up, fell in upon itself. Now, small hills of brick and board and ash are cordoned off. Its carcass, his history, is trash. Twisted bed frames, smashed glass. Stains of time are dragged down, but not yet scoured clean. Nor is it clear to this town what it will mean.
First one's called Swing on the Cannon. My name is Amy Hazard-Markeen. I am a teacher at Prairie Creek Communities. There's a spot on the Cannon River where teenagers learn to fly. The old rope hangs from an even older branch of an ancient tree. I'd never been there as a teen. There was no flying for me, only a mother's watchful eye at a safe distance, sight unseen. Close enough to hear the shouts of joy and laughter, near enough to witness that there was no life or limb disaster. Holding my breath as they swung into the water, anxiously listening for the victorious shout. I told myself it was concern that brought me to that silent spying spot. But in all honesty, it was probably more a touch of jealousy. This one is inspired by my godchildren. It's called Poo Sticks. We pull into the Upper Arb parking lot, the children waving hello to the Carleton folk. Down the path we travel without any rush, collecting sticks of all sizes as we traverse, for the destination is always the same. Poo Sticks Bridge, we've named it. It calls out to us as we make our way to see how quickly the sticks will swim. We watch, running from side to side, tossing one in, it disappears under and comes out again. You would think this game would grow old quickly, but it is amazing how long one can play on a sunny spring day when the water flows swiftly and time slows to the rhythm of small feet, jumping with joy as sticks emerge and float away. I'm going to try not to get emotional with this one. This is dedicated to my dad, who passed just a few years ago. It's called The Library. The little boy grabs his grandfather's arm. Today is our adventure day. Indeed, the old man replies. They climb in the car, and it pulls away. They are dropped at the steps and walk around to the ramp, enter the library, and are greeted by name. The little boy shares an enthusiastic wave. First to the puzzles. There's an order to this outing. Then to the books, emptying sections of neatly arranged stacks. The old man memorizing where to put them back. To France's Eiffel Tower, then the coast of Spain, deep diving into the ocean and back to the shores again. Fairylands and monstrous woods, there's nowhere this pair can't explore. They pore over pictures, read stories galore. When Grandma returns to pick them up, they choose the 2 books that get to go home. So many adventures. The little boy smiles. Indeed, the old man exclaims. And out they walk, hand in hand.
My name is Lon Cruz. I'm probably quiet, so I'm going to shake. I wrote a poem about the library. So when of my favorite places. I offer thanks to Carnegie. I like to think the library is one of the most democratic of places, where the lore of freedom is stored, be they stories, words without pictures, and pictures without words. It is where the freedom is stored. As a child, I was struck with wonder by the magic of this place, paradise on earth and abundance, more than I could read in a lifetime, though I continue to give it my best shot. As an adult, I'm struck with the same awe. I'm amazed every time I enter and gaze in wonder at all the gifts that are so freely given for all those who walk in. It is the essence of America, all that is grand and wondrous in this fair land. I say it again, it is where the freedom is stored. It's freedom in one of its finest forms.
I'm Susan Jarrett Kinstry. We're shifting over to Central Park, and that park was in complete disrepair, and in 1992 a small group of neighbors got together, raised money, bought the supplies, and got volunteers to work on it. So this was originally written for the rededication ceremony in 1994, and I've slightly revised it to make a little more sense right now, but it's an old poem. A labor of love, a birth of earth, makes tangible the dream of a small world graced by greenness. At the center, a medicine wheel radiates circles of calm, holds in its paving stones a measure of order and echo. The peace of balance in rock, tree and sky, grass and flower, leads us out to paths lacing around the wheel, ringing the park like small white ribbons, winding between trees, those green-leafed sky teasers. Catch light and shadow, birds and squirrels, and us as we lean against them, staring into the dappled sky. You are part of this, the circle says. You put hearts and minds and hands into its making. The dreamers saw life in the crumbling park, showed us its past and pictured its future, wished aloud to make it real, and gave their gifts of vision to all of us. So Central Park was born again, a labor of love, in shifts of neighbors, children and adults, planting bushes and evergreens, sharing shovels, watering plants and sod and laughing children during the hot days of a long Minnesota summer, laying stones all through one soggy Saturday, making friends, taking time, making a small piece of history. We are part of this, a gift from the past to the future, a pause against the speed our age finds so enticing. It will outlast us. It will bring us together to play, to celebrate, to dream. Our children will grow with the trees. We will measure time against this lushness. It will remind us daily of the rich gift of ourselves, the immeasurable joy of making a grace of greenness to hold always central in our lives.
I'm Maren Swanson. I wrote this in April of 2021, and it was a warmer April than we had this year. But it's still called A Cool April in Northfield, Minnesota. Walking among houses known as Victorian Queens on the east side of the old river town of Northfield, Minnesota. Walking among ornately brooding structures with peaks and hoods and filigree, and plaques declaring they were built in 1880-something. I look straight up the massive trunks of trees that have stood stolidly through 100 years or more of battering by Minnesota winter storms, and that are now tentatively letting winter-hardened buds soften and open. Buds still clinging to the branches that held them tight through the cold season. But now, daffodils cluster at the feet of these giants. Small golden faces raised to meet the first caress of spring. Brave little flowers cajoling the stodgy trees to free their buds. To have faith in the milky sun rays filtering through neighboring plum tree blossoms. To assume the courage of the smaller plum trees. Inhale their optimism with their perfume. And to finally break the bonds of winter.
Hi, I'm Doug Green, and I'm going to pick up in some ways where Susan left off, because I was there at that event, that rededication of the park. And I should say one other thing. It's called Central Park, but my first experience of Central Park was the other one, because I'm originally from New York. Yes, that's Central Park. Central Park. I remember helping to lay cobblestones in the walled center circle and northwest and southeast corners of this neighborhood park. Those in the know showed us how to set each tapered stone in its sandy bed to create perfect purple-gray quarter circles at the park's corners and an echoing full circle at its heart. We neighbors, kneeling side by side or ferrying sand and stones to those bent to the general task, labored to restore this one-block core of our community. Small wonder, then, I felt in this Central Park, its shady tree-lined walks, its open green expanses, its laughing playground. My spouse, my infant son, and I had finally found our people and our home.
Hi, I'm Christine Kallman. And again, we have both Susan and Doug mentioned the acoustical property of the center of Central Park, and which is a delight to a lot of people and children especially. So my poem is called Echoes, the Magic of Central Park. Echo, echo! A young voice erupts from the exact center of the paving stones. It's my grandson, Leif, his spirited call reverberating off the rough stone of the encircling wall. Beneath rising branches, he listens, beams, shouts again, runs to explore myriad enchantments. I invoke this land's past in times out of memory, when the forerunners of the Wakpekute Dakota and earlier yet ancient peoples thrived here on prairie and oak savanna. Later, settlers of the new town envisioned green space, intersecting walkways, a fountain long gone, dedicated to ordered natural beauty. Now it is our turn to seek this haven, trees that tower and murmur in the wind, place structures created to thrill small bodies, wide stretches of grass that entreat us to enter. We take the wind on our faces, inhabit this place apart, lose then find ourselves in a space that, still or bustling, is nothing less than a sanctum. Memories collide and swirl, my daughters as children flying on swings, hide and seek behind thick tree trunks, neighbors planting flowers, skidding leaves in fall and crunch of snow in winter, frisbee and soccer on green lawn, craft fairs and diversity celebrations with their crowds of tents and throngs of shoppers, four-legged friends of all sizes, concerts on a portable stage, elaborately costumed theater productions, hammocks slung together during COVID so the teens can hang with their friends, and music, so much music, singing Welshmen, anybody remember them? Vintage bands with their odd-looking instruments and buckles and sashes uniforms, ad hoc pluckers and bowers of bluegrass, folk, rock and roll, mariachi, and always children running, skipping, dancing, laughing. Echo, Leif calls again and leaps to the short wall, running the ring at the heart of the park. Suddenly, I'm back nearly 25 years. It's dark, balmy. A chorus of crickets chirps a kind of fairy song. I know a bank where the wild thyme blows, where ox lips and the nodding violet grows. Oberon instructs his sprite Puck this midsummer night on a lamplit stage. Green, quite over-canopied with luscious woodbine. Green maples, ash, and basswood shelter Titania's bower. Gathered in seats within the stone circle, we are caught up in the echo of yet another lifetime. Lulled in these flowers with dances and delight. By the magic of thespians, we are transported to a mystical forest where man becomes ass, where love is lost and found again. I had a dream, but isn't this as real as anything? Past the wit of man to say what dream it was. Perched in a tree, young people wield electric stage lights, listen nervously to distant thunder. The fairies flutter in, cobweb and mustard seed, moth and peas blossom, hover with care over the queen of the living earth, and we sense over all of us as Puck flies round the world. Echo, echo, Leif hollers, giggles, scurries to climb the twisty jungle gym, around the world and back. All time and place become one.
I'm Pamela Kensher. We live a block away from Central Park, and although I see it every day in the summer, I hear it every day, and picked up on some of the same themes as Christine here. If I can find my phone. There it is. Summer in Central Park. Listen, at the center of central, voices bounce like soccer balls. Here, good, out, wow. Children play as evening falls. Voices bounce like soccer balls from circle's center, rippling out. Children play as evening falls. Trees attend to whisper and shout. From circle center, rippling out, sonnet, anthem, jazzy chord. Trees attend to whisper and shout, lullabies and wooden swords. Sonnet, anthem, jazzy chord, each echo sounds a memory shared. Lullabies and wooden swords, children, trees, and sundown.
I learned at the reading of the depot that this is the last event that Rob, you're hosting, right? That's what you said. And I'm like, let me give him something. I mean, to thank you for all these years of beautiful events, programs, and everything. So I have some cards that I make of different buildings around town. So this is for you as a thank you. And I'm sure Becky and Doug will do an amazing job as interim. I said, it's going to be 5 years, so you'll see. So I'll read all of them because I have to go back to the market. So the first one I read now is the Northfield Arts Guild. The wooden floor creaks under the weight of the students, pencils and brushes, and a box of shells in the magic closet. It is my happy place, the art studio in the beautiful building. They say the guild houses a ghost. Who knows, perhaps it is true. A place where imagination reigns could very well have a ghost to accompany the art sessions and the dances and talks where children create, hands busy at work, imagining worlds we wished existed, worlds of wonder and curiosity. Thank you. So the next two are the Carlton Arboretum and the Oak Lawn Cemetery. So the Carlton Arboretum. I lost the key in the arb. Where would it be? Perhaps a white squirrel is using it to lock her home, so the gray squirrel will not come and invade her space and help herself of precious nuts and pieces of rope she can use to build her nest. I lost the key in the arb. Where would it be? Perhaps a blue jay has it. Who knows? Perhaps a cat took it to play around in the sand, hiding it here and hiding it there. And the last one about the cemetery or lawn has a segment that is true. It's a friend of mine in Northfield died many years ago, and that reflects that moment where she was buried at the cemetery. I should add, she died by suicide, so please reach out always. It's just a horrible thing to go through for everybody, the sufferer and the families. Oak Lawn Cemetery. Will you believe me if I tell you, depending on the time of the year, the deceased wait until the ground unfreezes? As they wait, they play cards and remember the tidbits of their lives worth to be kept as memories. My friend, a beautiful writer, is buried in the south section. Over her tomb, another friend said goodbye with a dance, with swords, under a crisp fall day. The sun sliced by the swords, the perfect goodbye. Thank you. Thank you, I have to go. Thank you so much.
Greg Randall couldn't be here, couldn't be here, but he would ask me to read his poem for him. It's called Labyrinth at Lyman Lakes. So if you've been on Stussy Island, the second island in the lakes over at Carlton, there's a labyrinth there. You can walk, it's really quite nice. Labyrinth at Lyman Lakes. Buckeye and walnut big enough now to shade each plaque, bristled pine to keep steady in our gaze, as steeples of a stave church splitting a Norwegian sky. The memory of classmates and winter's unforgiving white and gray. Someone cared enough to rescue you from oblivion, to extract the drift of you in their memory. From the shattered steel and avenue's long debris cloud of towers, you remind us what an ordinary morning in Manhattan can become. Clouds massing overhead detonate their artillery. Trembling simulacrum of a wood duck glides into rushes. A catbird desists its litany of complaints. Step with me into the labyrinth. Pretend its flat stones hewn out of a river gorge are insurmountable walls. Ask yourself, what are we in circle and spin? No thread unspools at our feet to wind us back. In this heat, glands ooze the stench of a bull. We've reached the middle of this life, not hero, not monster. We've advised, we've listened, we've carried in us others' stories of failure and regret, told in an hour when all dalliances and deceptions slipped off like gowns. We've tried to recast them as chronicles of gratitude and hope. Was this wrong? Was it enough? What do any of us possibly leave behind? This island was left behind, the labyrinth scored into it, stone circle and quarry rock, evoking a classmate whose mind then body mangled in an imponderable death. Collective hands shaped this lake and prairie flowers restored to its banks, and the sight of wood ducks cleaving rushes, bullheads sloshing mud, flare of water, hurtling a weir, this scrap of bark peeled off a birch, then etched with ink, the world making and remaking itself out of the velocity of grief, compelling a body at rest to change. Chapel bells scar the air with 12 stern notches. Sunlight seals the lake's membrane, concealing its bluegill world. Disappearing is the destiny of destinies, Montale claimed. Emblazoned on a plaque, bolted to a stone, you endeared yourself to those you left. How much does speaking aloud your name bring you back to us as trees planted by rivers of water, as other makings of the sun?
Hello, I'm Michelle Laswell, and this is the first poem I've ever written, so be gentle. When the world shut down, You were my, or this is about the Carlton Arb, I forgot to say. You were my escape, my refuge, the place where my teenager could be out with me without being seen. Up and down the various trails, discovering paths we never knew existed. Cannon River rippling in the background, crickets chirping, sticks cracking beneath our shoes, surrounded by the eerily quiet, empty college campus. Deer crossing our paths, new growth emerging from the dirt. A toad hopping off the path to avoid us. The few times we passed a stranger, putting up our masks, making eye contact, but not making contact. Here, I could almost forget the pandemic blowing up around us. Me and my daughter walking in the ark when the world shut down.
This is one by Andrea Ian about the river. An eagle lazes, it's called Up in the Air. An eagle lazes overhead, a centurion's command of geese, arranged in rows for cold combat, float on thin flows of icy river, gaze raptly at the pale south sun. I am up in the air among bare treetops, ungrounded, rootless, uneasy without my own dirt and mold, earthworm smell after a rain, swollen bodies on the sidewalk, then inching back to the dark. I live high with spiderweb iridescence, visitation of a red-tailed hawk on my patio rail. I am emerita, done with titles and pomp, newborn and naked, watching rivers flow.
Put on my hat because the light is so wonderful here. My eyes were having trouble, and I was almost going to go out and get sunglasses. And I'd be even more pretentious than normal if I did that. I'm going to read a very short poem. And people that know me know I don't do this, and I don't come up on stage for short periods of time. I like long periods of time and longer poems. And I'm going to bring a little Japan into the room. So this is not exactly a haiku, although if you get into the haiku world, you'll discover that there's lots of controversy and lots of fights worldwide about what is a haiku and how many syllables and this, that, and the other. And I'm trying to stand outside of that fight. This is a short poem that is kind of haiku-ish. And I'm gonna, I discovered from my mentor that short poems disappear so quickly that you don't actually hear them. So I'm going to read it twice. First time's a setup. And this is, I've lived here now for an incredibly long 1.5 years. And I live over near Spring Creek Elementary. And there's a nature preserve there. And it's really wonderful. And in the spring, the frogs are incredibly loud. It's amazing. So this is for Spring Creek Elementary. Dark, black night. Swamp, frog, symphony. Kind of heaven. Dark, black night. Swamp, frog, symphony. A kind of heaven.
And she wrote a poem about Ophon. I walk where ancient elms once reigned, on roads and grass the footfalls land, and lead this mortal trespasser to stones where loves remain. An oak cathedral shadows me, bears witness to the lives within, this silent place of monument to private talks and tears. Beneath the boughs of angel wings, creation's bedding congregates. These stately sentinels provide the softest covering. So many have sought refuge here among these sacrificial airs for bodies worn beyond repair, whose souls unhindered soar. Walking on graves of those seen no more, ne'er forgotten, I wisp away a leaf or two to read the name and date. I stand and ask forgiveness, though long past mercies granted, and listen to the angel say, she's not here, you know. I breathe the air around me, as mortals do until God's call, then pull the blessings to my lips and take the long way home.